Well, I think it's about time we address these issues, Brian. We've had this finger pointing between the manufacturers, drug discoverers, and the distributors. It doesn't help. We have the world's most complex distribution system, and it has to be disintermediated, Brian. We've got the PBMs, we've got the retailers, we have the wholesalers, and all these channels add tremendous costs. And where it really hits is in generics. And I don't see why we can't have a much more streamlined distribution system. And so I actually favor the consolidations going on with CVS and Caremark and Optum Health, which is part of United, to consolidate the system and go direct from manufacturer to the consumer. And give me a prescription number from my doctor and let me go. And the problem is, this problem is going to be exacerbated because there are breakthrough drugs coming, Brian, that get even more expensive coming along. So we're going to have to find some solution to this. And I think we got to stop making excuses. The other thing we have to do, which will upset a lot of people, we've got to permit the federal government to negotiate for prices with the manufacturer and with others. And the law doesn't permit that. Obamacare is one of the big mistakes they made. But I don't see why. It's the only form of commerce. I don't know where a buyer and seller don't negotiate. So let's get to a free enterprise system. I would allow the mergers, but then let's give consumers the best price and visibility into their prices.
Ipsita, is this going to be more idea generation and problem solving or finger pointing?
I think that this will be quite a bit of finger pointing. I think this will be the fieriest hearing from the Senate Finance Committee that we have seen. The first two were pretty tame. The first one featured some academics and patients. The second one had a big host of CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies. But really the toughest question we heard at the pharma CEO hearing was, what keeps you up at night? Here, I think there's an opportunity to find the poster child for these opaque rebates, the middleman, PBMs. What do they really do? So I think that the PBMs are going to be on the defensive. They're going to have to defend themselves and say, look, this is what we do. We are B2B. We work for employers, unions, the federal government. And what we're doing is we're keeping drug costs down. We also help at the pharmacy. We call patients to make sure that they're adhering to their medications. So I think we'll see the other aspects of the business model come out, and then the blame game will go back to the manufacturer because they are indeed the ones who set prices. PBMs indeed accept rebates and are responsible for formulary management. But to answer your question about idea generation, yes, lawmakers are already jotting down ideas in a legislative package that involve a lot of sunshine on drug prices, on asking manufacturers to provide notification when an increase is going to be more than 10% over 1 year or 25% over 2 years. These rebates, let's put them up on a website. Let's put them on a wall of shame. So quite a bit of sunlight into the drug pricing process. And we could see a whole slew of bills pass later this year. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention on rebate reform with the PBMs, the administration is moving ahead. Back in January, Secretary Azar issued a proposed rule to really get rid of these rebates and provide those savings to the point of sale, so that a patient, would go to the pharmacy counter and see, instead of a $25 rebate on a $100 drug, the $75 cost to the patient. So that is already in motion, and we could see them finalizing that rule for as soon as 2020.
Yeah, okay, Bill, we're showing some of the highest priced drugs in America. There's drugs that are $40,000 and $50,000 a year. Why do drugs cost so much in the first place?
Well, I think, Brian, you got to separate into patented and generics. Generics don't cost a lot, and they get marked up by multiples. And but as for the patented medication, I think the rebates have got to get to the consumer. There's just, Ipsita is right. There's no excuse for them not getting to consumers. They cost so much because we have to recover they have to recover the R&D. I think the real issue is I think drug makers have a right to recover their R&D. Look at the discovery that's going on. And now we have a drug like Keytruda that is being used in so many applications that's saving lives in immunology. And look at the cell biology and gene therapies coming out. These are going to cost a lot of money. And so I think, Brian, there will be a recovery period, but I think there has to be a sliding scale for the poorer people and middle-class people that don't have access to these drugs to get them at much lower prices. And frankly, we've got, again, if we can get rid of all these markups in the system, Why can't people get their drugs directly? You buy everything else directly. Amazon can ship it to you. Why does it have to go through all this? And I think that's what we got to unloosen it.
Ipsita, it does seem a little bit like that's kind of Amazon, Walmart buying PillPack. I mean, there do seem to be some steps that way, but when all is said and done and all the Sturm und Drang is over on Capitol Hill, is anything going to change in the near term?
I do think there'll be some changes. It's almost like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Ever since the president put out his blueprint in May of last year, we've seen about 6, 7, 8 regulations that are helping patients with out-of-pocket, allowing plans to do more step therapy so that the generic comes first, or maybe the product with better efficacy comes first before the expensive pharmaceutical. Now we're seeing some efforts around sunshine, transparency, and rebate reform. So no, I don't think that we'll ever get Medicare drug price negotiation, as Bill has mentioned, but we could see some real changes in the Part B market. B as in boy. These are the expensive injectable drugs, infused drugs. There's a proposal out there. Who knows if it'll get finalized, but it really might. Essentially, the U.S. would peg prices for these expensive drugs to about 16 or 18 nations, Japan, Canada, France. And so I think that's something that the pharmaceutical and biotech industry is really holding their breath on. So I think at the end of the day, it will be a little bit more than just symbolic.